Hello, fellow investors, or as I should be saying, how? Because if you know how, there's nothing you can't do. Knowing how is the key. You can be a brain surgeon if you know how. You could captain a cruise liner like I just came off of if you know how. Of course, you have to have the licenses also, and the confidence that comes from knowing how. There are 80 reported cases of flu, the swine flu, already this year, and that's normally the number for an entire season. So we need to stop shaking hands, cough into our sleeves, and greet each other with how. I want to acknowledge some people. I want to acknowledge, first of all, Alexis Kiley. Lex is the niece of the famous actor Richard Kiley. She's a beautiful young woman out in Hollywood. She's also an actress, a SAG actress, and the reason that I went out and got a SAG agent was Lex's influence. Another influence she had over me is she did a webcam. I had a web camera, but I never used it. It was a regular camera that plugged into the USB port, and you could use it for a web camera. But I really didn't develop it. And then she did a video, and I said, you know what? I should do that. The reason I started doing these videos is her influence. She's also a very smart young woman. I asked her once if she does her own HTML code on her MySpace site. Her MySpace site is very impressive. And the music that you're listening to right now comes from her blog. Not on her main page, but she embedded a music player in the blog. I didn't know you could do that. So Lex taught me that you can do that. So her music is playing in the background, a tribute to her and Mozart. Thank you, Lex, for all you've taught me. If you're not familiar with Richard Kiley, he was the Man of La Mancha. He did that play on Broadway for years and years. I think a movie too. Although Peter O'Toole did it in a movie, I do know that. But and he did the song that you're probably most familiar with. Elvis Presley did it also. To dream the impossible dream. And as you know, I believe nothing is impossible. The limits we place on ourselves and our own ability are the limits we place in our own mind. Houdini. Dr. Dot is another one that I owe a lot to my education. Dr. Dot is another beautiful woman. Goes back and forth to Germany all the time. Her roots are German, although she claims to be the daughter of hippies. Grew up on Frank Zappa, loves Frank Zappa music. Dr. Dot does a lot of her own programming too, and one of the things that drove me crazy is I went on her MySpace page recently, and she had a video embedded on her main page that started playing the minute you got there. It was a music video by Queen, and I said, how did she do that? I copied the code to see if it would work for me, and it didn't. So I went on YouTube and I found a class, about 45 minutes in HTML programming, and I took the class and learned how to write the codes. I already knew a little HTML, but I learned how to write the codes to make things like that happen. So Dr. Dot, thank you also, and Lex, thank you. You know, the last time that I wanted something that bad was a friend of mine had a much bigger yacht than mine in South Florida, and it was called Johnny Be Good. And when I first saw the boat on the Intercoastal in South Florida, I thought it must be Chuck Berry's boat, but it wasn't. It was a 90-ton, 110-foot yacht, and mine was only a 12.5-ton yacht. Puny little thing. Anyway, on the bridge, he had a computer screen built into the bridge, and a little boat that moved on maps on that computer screen when we moved. The first time I saw it, we were at the Christmas boat parade down in Fort Lauderdale, and the captain started to take us back home, and I saw the little boat moving on the map, and I said, I have to have that. Now, the $10,000 captain's chair that he had meant nothing to me, but that little gadget, I had to have that. So I did that with the GPS and a laptop and some software, and put that onto a Hoive, which was my boat. I'm not Jewish. The boat was. And had to have that. Anyway, stocks. Jim Cramer, right after I said, go buy Sprint, the same day. Jim, are you playing my website? Anyway, Jim Cramer came out and said, don't buy Sprint. Okay, Sprint. Well, let's see who was right. Okay, Sprint's down, but let's see. I think I now heard that Sprint is acquiring IPCS, which is one of their big legal stumbling blocks for being able to acquire Virgin Mobile, which they wanted to acquire. And of course, I assume that Deutsche Bank is still interested in acquiring Sprint. So, remember, I told you so. I also told you that on the last video that I thought the market would hit 10,000 that week, or at least I had told somebody at a local restaurant when he asked me that question. I said, I think it'll hit it this week. 3 days later, 10,000. Busted through it. And closed above 10,000. Has pulled back some cents, but it's above 10,000 now, and we're heading for 11. Something I didn't tell you about was SanDisk. SNDK. I've held SanDisk since last September of 08, so I've had it for a year. Didn't really pay a lot of attention to it. It has creeped up, made me money, and the reason I bought it was a Warren Buffett kind of a thing. I liked what they did. I liked the company. I bought it for that reason. I think flash memory is going to be the future. CDs, all kinds of different formats. You put something on a CD, it doesn't work on somebody else's computer, you can't read it. DVDs are the same kind of thing. The little bitty SanDisk cards that go in your camera, 4 gigabytes, you can put pictures on them, you can put music on them, you can put data on them, you can put anything on it, move it around in your pocket. I said, that's the future. Flash memory. So at any rate, what happened was their earnings came out way above estimates, came out at like 70 cents a share instead of 30, and they had to halt trade, and that was after the market closed yesterday. They halted trading on it. Today, by the way, is the 21st of October. I should have acknowledged that when I started the video. And if I run over my time, I'll have to. But it's up 10% again today. I still think it's a good play. It's going to just go up and up forever. Financials. I told you that I didn't think Bank of America could hide their profits. You know, they own Merrill Lynch now, and they own Countrywide Financial. Wow. A lion in the jungle, poised to make a fortune, I believe. They're up 68.5% for me, but they did declare a loss, so I was wrong. They are sandbagging, or able to sandbag. However, the other financials that are coming out, BlackRock Financial, which Joanne Brown at Morgan Stanley did that one in an account that she manages totally. BlackRock Financial's up 89.48% for me, almost 90%. And HIG, the Hartford Insurance, up 81.03% for me this year. My star is still one of my picks, DDR, Developers Diversified Real Estate, up 316% for me. Another one that I didn't tell you about, SID, S-I-D, South American Steel Company, up 53.31% for me this year. Morgan Stanley knows what they're doing. Their earnings are up 70% this year. And two of the funds that they manage, Latin American Development Fund and Asian Pacific Fund, they're starting to talk about the foreign markets, the emerging markets, in particular the Far East, China, Japan, Asian Pacific Fund. Now, when you look at the numbers on it, it's not going to impress you that much because those numbers are spread out over the whole year. They pay a dividend twice a year, in the summer and at the end of the year. The summer's usually a small one. The number's going to reflect that small dividend. But at the end of the year, they chunk out December 31st, that big dividend, and I think it was like 68% last year in one of them. I believe it was Asian Pacific Fund, and Latin American Development Fund was around 30-something%. 30% is not good enough for you? APF, Asian Pacific Fund, LDF, Latin American Development Fund. And again, the market will do whatever it has to do to prove the most people wrong, including me. And now, back to you.